Hey everyone, my name is Anna. I'm a wife of an addict in recovery, and I'm also recovering myself from codependency.
Hey guys, I'm Mitchell. I'm a gratefully recovering addict alcoholic, and I'm grateful to be here.
Tonight, guys, we're gonna
back home.
Yeah, good to be back home. I to be honest, I have anxiety even from being back home. That's why I wanted to do this topic tonight, is how to work through anxiety, because you know me, I'm all about when we're actually going through the situation. That's when I feel like we can express more. So tonight, guys, what we will talk about is how to work through anxiety, and also how to help someone else work through anxiety. So not fixing the situation for them, but supporting them through it. So that's what we will be talking about today or tonight. We'll also have a question answer. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to write them down in the comments section, and I will keep a look on them. I'm actually going to turn on our over here on the laptop just to see them come in. But good evening, everybody. Let me see. Let me go down and get it, and then we'll start talking about it. Boop. Okay. All right, guys. So today, coming home, I'm just going to go through it. We came back home today. We've been in North Carolina for Mitchell's been in for a month. I've been down there for 2 weeks. So coming back today, I do feel like I have anxiety. And in all honesty, I've always felt good about coming back home. Hi, Bonnie. This is probably one of the first times that I have anxiety being back. I can tell you some of the thinking patterns that I had in the car coming home. I know that we have our new dog that isn't the newest, and definitely has trauma himself. And, that's very difficult. And I think coming back, I thought in my head, even before any of that, was one of the things that I loved coming home to was my animals. And on the car ride, I started getting sad. I started thinking about not being able to be here and say hi to Jude and Neva and Tonka and Winston and my Dodgy, and that kind of hit home. So I think grieving caused some anxiety there as well. And from that, then I started I'm so excited for spring to come. I'm so excited for that warm weather to come. But I have to be honest with you, there is a part of me that is so sad about the spring coming. And spring's always the time that's really happy for me, but I am sad that it's going to be different, that I'm going to be outside and Neva's not going to be coming up anymore and sitting beside me when I lay out a blanket, that Tonka's not going to come over with his collar making that sound, and not seeing my Jude with his very low pitch cry. And it really hits you sometimes of how something still really hits you inside. And then all of a sudden I think about Sun, and I really love the dog, but there's a lot there, and it makes me not feel safe here. It makes me feel walking on eggshells. It makes me feel like, truthfully, being back in the addiction. I'm sitting in this room and I'm hearing the dog bark out there, and it's the same feeling of when I was sitting in my room and hearing a door open and wondering what was going to come in. Was it going to be actually my husband? Was it actually going to be Mitchell? Or was there going to be the addict walking through the door? Was I going to feel alone? Was I going to feel like I had to isolate in my own house and not come out because I didn't want to confront the situation that caused me immense anxiety? I felt that the way to confront the anxiety was to stay in the room and isolate and not go out and not have conversation. So for me, I think there's just a lot of feelings going on right now. I admit, then I feel uneasy. And because, we did have the relapse just a month ago, I start to notice that I'm uneasy, but then I get nervous about things even more from just this one time being in. And it's honestly very difficult. And if I told you, this is the first thing for me to help me identify, is honestly asking ourselves, what does anxiety actually feel like inside of us? What does anxiety feel like in our body so that we really understand what we're going through, and then we can go to the next process of what's triggering it. Okay, so if I tell you right now what anxiety feels like to me, it's an absolute clenching in my chest. I feel sick to my stomach. I don't feel safe. I feel uneasy. I feel like I want to run away. My jaw clenches inside my body. I just have this overwhelming feeling of being scared, so I can feel my muscles in my body tense. I get hot. I feel like I'm flushed in the face, whether I am or I'm not. So for me, that's what anxiety feels like more physically, but I did go into emotionally of just feeling overwhelmed, feeling scared, having my mind race, trying to search for solutions rather than just sitting in it. Sometimes that's for me what it is, but I realize when I'm not mentally good, that's my perception of the world. So then I look around me and I admit to this. Like I start to question and go, is Mitchell good? Is something going on without my knowledge? And I get nervous. And it's not that there's been displays of feeling that way, but I notice now I'm more on edge and I'm easier to be triggered. And so I hyper focus on things that make me nervous, you know? And I will say, like, one of the ways that helps me work through anxiety is talking the way I am right now. And I will admit to you that after this live ends, Mitchell and I will be sitting down and having a conversation and talking about what's been going through my head and why I'm nervous. And I know Mitchell will look at me and go, Anna, I just relapsed. Like, it's understandable for you to feel that way. And so I will tell you, I know one of the things on here is, how can someone help us work through anxiety? For me, guys, it's when I'm going through this heightened feeling and emotion right now. It's Mitchell looking at me and basically telling me that it's okay to feel the way I feel right now, and that it's understandable why I feel the way I feel. So for me, like when I'm working through triggers and it has to do with the addiction, one of the most helpful things Mitchell's actually said to me is, Anna, the addict lied and had unhealthy behaviors for 9 years. We're at 5 years now. That actually helps me decompress. And I want you to know how important that is to me, because I know that there are so many people out there craving that. Honestly, what I did in early recovery, when I remember getting upset with Laura and like talking to her and going, I don't want to do the first steps anymore. I want Mitchell to take the initiative. I don't want to be the one always helping Mitchell come down. Like, I want a partner that can help me come down. You know, I don't want to always be the one bringing a conversation. Like, I want my partner to bring a conversation. And I want you to know that it's very important to me. And it means a lot to me that when I'm in heightened like this, that you and I can talk and you're there for me, because I felt like in the addiction, I was never able to get that. I always felt like if I broke, you were going to break. Mm-hmm. And I know that's my codependency. Like, I understand that now.
And it was reality.
Yes. And the thing is, so I always put this on, and like, I think that's part of it, Mitchell, and why I get so much anxiety is like, I feel like when I have anxiety, like I feel like I'm going to break, and I get really scared that if I break, like everything around me is going to break. And so then I'll be even more filled with anxiety and things will be even more hard. And I know right now, like, this is what the anxiety is doing to me. Like, obviously, as you can see, I'm really emotional. I'm in a heightened sense right now. And I feel like I've been that way since we've come home.
No, that's fine to feel that way, baby. I mean, here's what I think. Here's what I learned in treatment about anxiety. Right? And I used to be a very anxious person. In recovery, I don't feel like I'm an anxious person anymore. Like, honestly, like, at all. I think I'm more depressed, and I'm more towards the depressed scale of depression and anxiety, less anxiety, and I think I'm more of the anger management side of things, right? Frustration, anger management side of things, and that's based in resentments and past stuff, right? So mine's more past stuff, which is depression. Future stuff is more anxiety, right? But we judge the future on the past, right? So, you know, and this happens to all of us, you know what I mean? What it is what is anxiety telling us, right? We're nervous about something. We're protecting ourselves from a potential blank, right? That's what anxiety is. It's making you anxious. It's making you hyper aware. It serves a purpose. But do we investigate the purpose, or do we give too much power to the anxiety, right? We give too much power to the anxiety. When you give power to the anxiety, it snowballs into everything. I used to love coming home to my animals. My animals aren't there. Then I look at, spring's coming. When we talked about this before we even came up, remember? Spring's coming. I'm looking so forward to spring, but I'm not going to have any of my animals in spring. So there's another one, right? Snowballs getting bigger. Come home used to be the safety of the animals and stuff. Now we have Son, who's a wild card, right? Love him, has issues. Son loves me and Anna and her mom, but temperament-wise, we don't feel safe with Maria Reese running out there, or still barks at Anna's dad and like things we don't like, right? So adds to the snowball, right?
And then I feel bad for what I feel
of
with
anxiety,
Son.
right? And then maybe a thought creeps in of maybe we shouldn't have this dog, and then we feel bad because I love animals and now I'm going against who I am. Boom, snowball's even bigger. Then you go in and I'm vegging out on the couch and Anna's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I told her, I said, actually, I'm just super glad to be able to not watch Maria Reese for a minute, because I've had full focus on her for a full month. And I'm super excited that I get to come in this room, and this might sound messed up, but not have to deal with Maria Reese for an hour. You know what I mean? I was like, this is fantastic. I ate some chicken nuggets with some mustard that a good friend of mine made and just gave it to me, and some kimchi. And like, I was like, this is just heaven right now, right? But in the hyper-aware, anxiety-filled, you in the moment, things are wrong, right? Something's wrong. Maybe Mitchell's stealing this stuff too. Snowball's getting bigger, right? Because all the weight's being put on the anxiety, not the investigation part of what's this anxiety trying to tell me? It's trying to tell me that coming home's different, and I need to soak in what it's different. And by, instead of letting the anxiety go run rampant, we say, let's be grateful for the time I had with my animals, and how it's probably never going to be that good with that many animals that were like just so cool, right? Like that time in our life is gone, right? That moment in our life is gone because we had so many animals, right? Like for a while there, we'd say, people would say, "How many animals do you have in the house now?" And we're like 8. You know what I mean? They're like, "Are you crazy?" But they all worked, right? We're not ever going to be back at that moment again, right? So so what's the anxiety telling you? We have to grieve those moments. We have to say, I'm grateful for my animals I had, and I have to recognize that coming home from long trips isn't going to be the same, right? That anxiety, though, by just having anxiety and not dissecting that, it just grows, right? And then it spills over to the Son issue, to the is Mitchell okay issue, is the am I ready for spring but don't want to come issue, right? There's also probably getting back into a routine here is sometimes daunting, right? Makes the snowball bigger. All this anxiety feeds anxiety, feeds anxiety, feeds anxiety, right? And that'll subside as the days go by here, and you start getting into that routine of here. But it's the shift. It's the shift. That's the biggest thing that's always happened to me my whole life. It's like my earliest anxiety moments were after summer vacation, going back to school. Everything hit again. Low self-worth, low self-esteem. In the summer, I ran free with all my siblings and friends in the neighborhood, and I had no care, not a care in the world. I didn't judge myself. I didn't think I'm lesser than. I was down in the creek playing with and finding crawfish under the stones and running in the creek with bare feet and the creek for everybody else, but carefree. And then I go back to school when it was just all this stuff, right? And it was, I didn't know what it was, but it was anxiety on anxiety on anxiety. And at the age of 6 and 7, I was like, my answer to that was, I don't want to be here. And I remember telling my mom, like, I wish I was never born. Like every time going back into school, like I wish I wasn't even alive. The anxiety was that much. That's the same thing that happens today, right? All this stuff compounds, and we even talked about some of this stuff before we even left. You know what I mean? So we even know it's coming. But there's nothing you can do in the moment, right? There's nothing you can do in the moment. But after the fact, and this is, I think, a way to work through anxiety, recognize it and talk about it, right? Sit with it. As soon as it's out of your lips, it's out in the universe, and we can process, right? We've told somebody. That's why it's so hard to ask for help before we admit we're an addict, before we admit we're codependent. The first job of recovery from anything is admittance. So admit you have anxiety, right? And reach out to some form of support. Tell them that you don't want fixed. You just want to tell them how you feel. And if you're going to the right support, they're not going to judge you, and they're not going to say, oh, that's silly. Oh, you have nothing to worry about. Oh, but this dog's great. Because there's anxieties to go with it. This dog is great. But did he bark at our daughter? Did he bark at Richard today? Yeah. Like,
and it wasn't just barking.
He's still a great dog.
He goes, he lunges.
He's still a great dog. Like, I was just out
Hair
there.
up.
I was just out there, and he was playing with him. I was playing with him, and I play rougher with him. And I grab him by the mouth, and I'm like shaking him, and I'm like taking his head, pushing his head down and stuff. And he comes right back to me, and he wants to play with me, right? And then he gets a little too rough, and I go sit, and I'm trying to work on sit, and he sat right down. And I told him to stay, and I rub him on the belly real soft, and try to calm him down, but say, hey, you can be rough, but we can calm down. You can be rough, and we can calm down. And like that's what the anxiety tells me is I need to work with this dog. Yeah. I need to train this dog. I need hands-on, like, you know, rile him up, calm him down, things so he knows that we're watching. You know what I mean? And we can play rough. But when we say no, it means no. You know what I mean? So like that's what the anxiety tells me. But I don't get anxious about it anymore. I'm like, you know what? Because here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to do. If it gets too much for me, I'm putting him outside, or I'm bringing Maria Reese in here, and she's not going out there when he's in the house. Yeah. Right? Like, I know what I'm going to do. I know my plan of what I'm going to do. Yeah. It's harder with springtime, animals, but we are grieving in these things. And a lot of stuff happened that interrupted the grieving process with all these animals, because you had a lot of health stuff, right? And they all happened right after another. So that grieving process still hasn't been there. And probably this spring is going to be when you're going to be doing your grieving for the animals, right? Because that's when you're obviously most attached to these things, right? And you're feeling better, right? So it's gonna be able to grieve more, and that's probably what you're not looking forward to as well. But anxiety is future tripping.
Yeah. Well, right? I want to talk to you about, if you don't mind talking about like where my mind went when I said like I get nervous with you and stuff too, is that my mind, like I think we all know that there are times where I feel that there's irritability and there's tone change, right? And I think before the relapse, I knew that was a part. But I feel like when I'm not doing good, if I notice more irritability or tone change, then my mind goes to how relapses were in the past, of that it was never a one and done with you. You know, the addict just kept going. And there were times where I would start to believe that everything was okay because it felt like you were okay. But the more time that went on, I found out that no, there was use the whole entire time. It just kind of went back to, like, when I say this word, I don't mean it, and it's kind of like it became it wasn't never manageable, but I wouldn't see the extensive behaviors of it. And so my thing is started, my mind went, well, I feel like Mitchell's a little bit irritable more lately. And so then my mind goes to, well, what happens if he's just using behind my back? Because I've had the addict like look at me and tell me when, you know, it's hard for me to trust. And the addict looked back at me and said, I guess this is what I deserve. So it was almost like very manipulative with the addict of, I would never think that someone, if I said like, how can you say that to trust me, that would very calmly and nonchalantly go, well, this is what I deserve. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and so those are things that go into my mind of that my Mitchell could not be in front of me. And that scares me. I start to get scared. And then of course my mind was like, would he get mad at me if I asked him just to take a test?
Yeah.
You know what
would I?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Would Mitchell, though?
Would get mad at me?
Would Mitchell get mad at you?
No.
The addict would get mad at you?
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is like, my thing is that like going from there and asking for it, my mind goes to, I remember times where, like,
today you went through this thought process.
Yeah, like
even after being with each other for 2 weeks straight, and being in the car for 2 days straight, when there was no possible time for use, your brain still went to maybe he's using.
Yeah, my brain went to when we were at the hotel. You could easily go somewhere and get a drink.
Did I leave ever?
Huh?
But did I leave ever? I'm asking you thinking questions. Well, did I leave ever? Were you ever out of your sight?
Well, you went downstairs just to get something from like the car or something like that. But that's what my mind does, and like, and my thing is I start.
Would Mitchell have stopped with one drink?
No. But
I'm just logical questions. Asking you logical questions. I'm asking you because that's the thing. Because that's the thing is these things happen, but again. We're gauging the past. We're gauging the now with the past.
Yeah.
Right? And that never serves us. Right? Past experiences are never going to be the same as in the present. This in addiction, each time if something else was happening, it was still different than the time before.
Yeah.
Right? We just have this process of grouping things in. And with addiction, especially because it's like the same day over and over and over and over again, right? It's the same thing. We lose the little details into the use. It all becomes the same thing, right? But in sobriety, and when you're not in the anxiety of comparing, one, the body's keeping the score, so you're already freaking out. Two is anxiety's taking over, and it's taking you down this like spiral. You know what I mean? And then we start comparing to past things, right? But logically, if you can pull yourself away from that anxiety for a little bit when you're going through that, and you just said another point too, is you were on session, right? So you might be talking to somebody else about their loved one or their something, or maybe they're in addiction or they're in use, and your brain starts trying to put these pieces together. Why am I anxious? Mitchell's in the other room. Was he using when I was down at the beach? Right? All this stuff starts to click into place, but it's not fact-based, right? It's not like here and now based.
But I think the hardest part is, Mitchell, is because we are so close to relapse. Like, you even just talked about the mourning and grieving of how it's taken me a long time with the animals because you just move on. I'm also wondering if when the relapse happened, like, I was fine and I was okay because I saw you doing all the things, and you are. But I think it's also sinking in more that a relapse did just occur, and I don't want to go back to that freaking hell again. And all I know is, though, is like, this is me processing right now, is saying that whether you were using or not right now, there's nothing that I could do to actually stop you. Like, all I have is my boundaries and talking to you and communicating to you. But I can't sit here and tell you that I don't get nervous from time to time. I feel like there are times where I'm back in early recovery because a moment of irritability in my mind goes to, well, could he still be using?
Yeah. Do you think it's more the relapse or the more the anxiety from everything else?
I think it's a perfect storm. I think I was not, in the beginning, I was more set on, this is what Anna's going to do. I'm going to focus on recovery plan that we always had in place. I'm going to watch him do it. You guys went to the beach, so I had 2 weeks just by myself to just do my own thing. Then we went down to the beach. And so I'm now more physically with you again. And then when I just see, like, again, it's not like you're doing this all the time. It's just little parts. All of a sudden my mind will go to, is there use? So I think it's us being more physically together. And I'm also now just more back in that early recovery kind of state of going, the reality is a relapse did happen. I might not have seen the addict behaviors, but it definitely makes me more on guard.
Yeah. I see that. I feel that with or without a relapse, this would be a very heightened emotional, anxiety-driven time for you. You know what I mean? I think that there's the animal things,
Well, that's not helping. That's what I mean. It's not helping.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I feel that this anxiety has been building, but that's from my perspective.
Yeah.
I don't feel it has anything to do with the relapse, but I have no idea. You know what I mean? But I know that's where the anxiety is going to take you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that. I know that's where it's going to take you. That's where it takes everybody. It takes my mom. My mom's like, whenever I found out Fish was going on concert, and I told Maria Reese, I said, hey, do you want to go to a couple shows? It's like an hour away. You know what I mean? In the summer, and like me, you, and her go. Yeah. My mom's like, oh, make sure you don't go alone. I'm like, no, I'm talking about like with me and Anna and Maria Reese. She's like, oh, okay. Well, that fear drives everything. You know what I mean? Well, of can't do this stuff because this stuff happened, and this stuff did happen. But like I said, every day is different. Every day is different. Nothing's the same as the past.
Well, I mean, I got nervous when I saw you were interested in a Fish concert that was coming up, and I saw that, and I was like, my mind went to, wait a minute, I thought we weren't doing concerts for a while. Yeah. And so I
hyper focused on everything. So
but do you get it though? Do you see that?
I do get it.
Oh, okay.
I do get it, but I'm saying it's hyper focused on everything because there's billions of things that people like, right?
Yeah.
Like online, this, like this, like this, like this, and it's like, oh well, it's not tied to something until we tie it to something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if we make it big in anxiety, we make things bigger than it is.
Oh, I definitely agree.
That's what I'm saying.
No, and I definitely agree. We start hyper focusing on more things. My thing is, I was actually talking to someone earlier today, and I really like this. Is that when we were talking about empathy on one of the lives a week ago, I was looking up and I looked it up because I was curious of what part of the brain that empathy comes from and things like that. And one of the things that I typed in empathy and addiction, and it said, empathy is to recovery as the ego is to addiction. And I really like that because it shows that if someone in recovery lacks empathy, you're probably not going to sustain recovery because you're not having empathy for family members, for one, okay, and for other people. And if you're in the ego, you're more in the self and not in a good way. So you're isolating. So it's more apt to the addiction. So I really, because I was talking about that today, is I think how, and I'm going to express this, is when we're talking about like how do you work through anxiety, for me, it's just someone having empathy for me. Is even if they're not in my shoes or they don't understand it, it's them having feelings and emotions I feel towards me, and it feels like they're understanding.
Yeah, right. It's holding space and not trying to fix, not trying to give input, not trying to do the stuff.
Yep.
Just listening.
Yes, exactly.
Not trying to tell them that their feelings are wrong.
Yes, exactly. And so for me, my thing is I think, we were talking about this, what helped me work through anxiety and build trust back with you was that moment. Like for me, the biggest one was that moment when that wife called and said, my husband relapsed, and you heard her. And then I saw that for the first time I felt really empathy and understanding for not only what she was going through, for me. Yes, and I feel like, and I was honest with someone, I feel like if I never got empathy from you, we would not be together right now. Because that's also how I feel connected.
We wouldn't have worked through all the trauma.
Yes, exactly.
We wouldn't have worked through, how much trauma have we worked through because of this empathy?
Yes, and so that's why it's important when I'm going through anxiety for you to be there and feel with me. And be that one that's more grounded, because that helps me process.
I hope I'm that now.
You are now.
I hope I am that now because I feel like I'm that now because I've told you this many times, I feel like I'm way too logical now. I'm way too in that kind of mode now.
Well, that is hard.
You know what I mean? It is hard. That's the depression medicine.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean?
That is hard for me sometimes. I do feel that. And I think though that you and I have more deeper discussions afterwards, and then I feel that from you. But I do think it's also that what happens is when that's a coping skill to go to that logic and reasoning, and sometimes not feeling right there because that's a way that we stop any uncomfortability going on inside of us.
Yeah, and I lived in emotion for all those years in the addiction. I just lived in a emotional response and not the logical and reasoning response.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And Patricia just wrote, as a mental health professional, I'm not feeling like you're reaching Anna where she's at, Mitchell. Just an observation. You guys know I love and admire you. And Patricia, I'll say if there's more things, which there is, that Mitchell and I will talk and discuss later.
Yeah, right now I'm just I was asking her some thinking questions about what she was trying to say there and what she thought was affecting her.
Yes, exactly. And I think sometimes I do admit it when there's more questions. I think what you're feeling, Patricia, and I don't know if this is where you were feeling it. For me, when I was expressing, you know, why I'm hyper focusing, and I felt like, well, more questions were coming at me. It made me feel like, again, that part, which the truth of the matter is I will never understand what it feels like to be an addict and what Mitchell went through. And truth be told, Mitchell's never going to understand what I went through as a family member. Now we can, again, have empathy and compassion and relate to one another. But I think this is still one of those parts is that, of course, my mind in that moment when Mitchell's asking me questions, my mind's going, but you don't understand how the addict would look at me and ask questions like this. And then I would later feel like I was freaking insane and an idiot, to the point where I remember times I would apologize to the addict. Yeah. Okay. And the addict was just deceiving me the whole entire time. So I don't know if that's what you were feeling.
She said, yeah, right then.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is recovery and an addiction conversations can look a lot similar. Yeah. But it's what happens afterwards.
I agree with that.
It's the outcome of things, because I don't know what it's like to be anxiety filled, like right now, right? I know what anxiety is like to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like the dog doesn't give me anxiety. Like I just know what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Right. Losing the animals. I mean, I feel like I've grieved them. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's just different. And like, I'm not at that spot. So I'm trying to understand your anxiety right now. Yeah. So I can better empathize with you, because I know the severity of it. Yeah. Right. Because I think in addiction, I would want to know what you were telling me, but I really didn't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd want to know and get to the bottom of it. So I understood, but I never did anything with it. Right. Now I can know the root of it. And I think that's how I've been able to help the last 6 months with not feeling well and the animals and all this stuff, is you've shown me the severity of your grief and stuff like that. And then I know I can take care of these certain things because of the severity of it. Yeah. Right. And if I don't understand that in recovery, then it might seem like I don't care, but I want to really care. So I need to know, like, oh, this is this, you know what I mean? And it's because I can totally relate to it, man. You know what I mean? Like, especially in my addiction. Yeah. You know, always starting new jobs, coming back from vacation, like, you know, going to work around my dad. You know what I mean? And I'm actually kind of more relieved because I'm like not with my parents right now. Yeah. Like just
I was wondering if you were feeling that.
Some of that toxicity, right? Yeah. And like, so we're in different journeys of our life right now. Like it's almost like you coming home was like me starting work in addiction. Yes. And now I'm the kind of calm centered coming home. Yeah. So we've almost swapped for a minute, right? So it's like I need to recognize, like, what is this, right? Yeah.
And I think to Patricia, what you were saying is that this actually gave me the realization is that, you know, 2 of the techniques that Mitchell and I were taught three, to help us listen to one another is, one was motivational interviewing. So not fixing it, but asking more thinking questions so that we can understand more, like what Mitchell was just saying, is asking those questions. And then the other one is reflective listening. I think I realized in that moment I needed more reflective listening rather than the motivational interviewing, because the motivational interviewing, even though, like Mitchell said, it was to understand more of where I was coming from, it made me feel more invalidated for my feelings. And so in that moment, you know, I will be honest, you asking that question helped me talk to Mitchell. And that's why I want people on here to recognize. That's why I always say, if you have someone in recovery, go to couples counseling or therapy, you know, do that, because for me, having a third party be a witness honestly helps me calm down. And someone else asking that thinking question really does help me go, someone else sees it, so I'm not insane. I need to challenge this. And that's what a support system does. So I will be completely honest. Would I have said that to Mitchell afterwards? Possibly afterwards, but because you expressed that helped me kind of know that something was going on that I felt. And I know you understand that because you love someone in addiction. So I think you were seeing my triggers and knowing that, you know, if I was in her position, this is how I'd feel right now. And it's not that Mitchell's bad or doing the wrong thing. I just think I would feel invalidated. And so when you said that, that helped me say to Mitchell and help us reflect. But I think that is the thing, is right there, the other technique was just being an active listener. And I think that's what it was, is needing to hear, because when I'm in this elevated, I think I'm more on defense too, of going, but you don't understand why I'm asking these questions. You don't understand why I'm thinking this way, because of all this stuff that happened in the past. And so I thank you for asking that, because I do feel more validated also from you, Mitchell. I do. I feel more validated. And I will tell you guys, having those thoughts of, oh God, can Mitchell still be relapsing right now?
Sure,
Those started going away when you started talking more about the anxiety I was feeling, mourning the animals, about coming home. That helped me calm. I was connecting with you. You were more in logical thought and reasoning. And
I was listening. I was repeating back whatever you said to me.
Exactly. And so that helped me. So guys, how we can... Go ahead, Mitchell.
I know what I'm saying. And here's another thing that I get caught up on, is when situations mirror each other, right? The more a situation happens, the more I have a difficult time empathizing.
When the situation's happening.
The same. Like when the same kind of thing. And these, the last 6 to 8 months has been difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a lot of the same situations, right?
Yeah.
And when I can't do anything about it, but the thing's still happening,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I get sideswiped, right? By like, so a lot of the emotional interviewing, a lot of the empathy, a lot of the reflective listening, that stuff starts to go away slowly with me, because it's like, okay, we've had this conversation and like this happens and I validate this, and then we go on a little bit and then it happens and it's like you become less able to do anything. And that's when I withdraw, right? That's my point, when I withdraw, and you know that.
Yeah.
You know that. You know, and that's something that I have to work on, because it ends up overflowing onto a lot of people that I have relationships with, that maybe some situation that we're going through as a friend or sibling or son or whatever might mirror another thing, and then I respond in kind, right, to how I'm feeling, right? And if it's something that I feel like I've dealt with for so long, and someone else just came in contact with me, but it mirrors that same thing, then they might get that kind of harsher response, and that's something I'm really working on. And at least I really kind of recognize that down at the beach. When I was saying that, I think that sometimes I respond to your parents like they're my parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just it's realizations that you have throughout life when you are mindful of yourself, when you have a partner who challenges you, when you don't get everything right. Like me and you are perfectly imperfect, right? We get things terribly wrong. We learn from them. We grow from them. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes we don't learn anything from them. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I think that's what comes from being active in your own life with someone, right? You start to recognize these things and like voice them and try to start working on them.
I was gonna say, I think that's a really good realization though too, Mitchell, that you just had. So I just wanted to say this. It says, "Hi Mitchell, I'm writing. My name is Ryan. I'm writing on my girlfriend's page because I don't have social media. Does the anxiety ever go away?"
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, I masked. I mean, from an addict perspective, yes. I mean, using all the time just pumped up the anxiety, right? It makes you less prepared. It makes you never look at the anxiety or what's happening. So it's just more anxiety. I think the more you get away from the behaviors, the toxic behaviors, no matter what they are, the more you have a logical chance, a mindful chance of working things out. And medication helps, right? Mm-hmm. Medication for anxiety helps, as long as it's not habit forming. But it helps to give you that little bit of a longer fuse to reflect on it and maybe have some like healthy coping skills.
Yeah.
But I feel it does totally. Like I don't feel like in my addiction I never would have got in front of people and spoke. I never would have started a new job here. I never would have asked for this much money. I never would I never would have done these things with strangers and all that stuff. in recovery, and like now, like heck yeah, man, like I'll get up in front of a couple thousand people. I don't care. Yeah, I mean, I might be a little nervous, but I'm not anxiety filled, right? And I was anxiety filled because like I don't feel enough. I don't feel good enough, right? Now I do feel good enough. I just might be a little nervous, right? It's just a little nervous. So I think it goes from a severe anxiety to a little nervousness.
I agree. And I feel like I've gone from regular anxiety to when I get triggered, like severe anxiety.
I think so too. And we know when it started. We've talked about that many times. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Lillian said, do you trust that Mitchell truly can empathize? I can't even say
Empathize.
it. Empathize if he truly can't understand how it feels to be you. Do you trust that Mitchell can? I'm going to go into my philosophy degree here for a second. I'm actually a believer that we all have subjective truths, which means I feel that we can understand common things to a degree, but I still feel we all feel things differently. So I think we all understand the concept of love, but I feel like I would never understand how you love someone, and I don't feel like you'll ever understand how I love somebody. I'm just a believer of that. So do I believe that Mitchell could ever fully have empathy for a situation? I believe he could have empathy, but do I believe that he'll ever fully understand what it was like to love a spouse in addiction? No, unless I go through addiction, and Mitchell's already told me he'd leave me. So there's that. However, I'll be honest though. However, he's flat out said,
I think it's a great answer though.
I don't understand how you'd stay.
I think that's a perfect answer, because she then asked me, do you think, and I think that's the same thing I would say is,
what was the question?
I think that you can empathize, but I don't think you'll ever truly understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, because I think you can empathize with someone without even knowing,
mm-hmm.
right? I don't think you need to know a story or situation. I think you can walk up to someone and see and feel their hurt, and I think you can empathize with them and their soul, right? Mm-hmm. I think you can be there and feel for someone way deeper than words, right? And conscious thought. So, but the male in me says, how can I empathize with her and understand a little bit better, because I don't want to make this mistake again, right? And I think that's kind of what I do. In certain circumstances, a lot of times, like I'm never gonna know how you feel, like with the addiction part, right? Yeah. But like anxiety part, like I've been anxiety ridden my whole life, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of, can I relate to that at all, right? So I think sometimes relating gets in the way of me empathizing, but I think empathizing can happen without fully understanding.
I think that's good insight there too. I never thought about it that way. Kim, I'm in need of help. I don't have much support. Hi, Kim. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. My husband's been living in sober house after attending 3 months of rehab. He's been off recently, and he just told me that he's drinking hardcore. He's terribly mean, and I know that's the disease talking. He's going to get kicked out of the sober living and lose his 3rd job in 2 years. We've been married 30 years, and I have terminal cancer, and this is very hard. I don't know what to do. He can't come home, or can he? First, I'm very sorry for what you're going through. My first, honestly, instinct is with cancer, because when we're going through something with such a hard disease, you really wish your loved one would be there for you. So I'm sorry that you're going through something like this. And he's not fully there. I'm very sorry for that, and I'm sorry that you're going through the addiction. I feel this is just me, and this is coming from me now working on codependency, okay? I know in my codependency, I'd probably say, well, where's Mitchell going to go? He needs to come home and be somewhere. But now understanding codependency and realizing that we need to take care of ourselves, no, I don't think he should come home, because you're in a point in your life right now going through something so hard that you need people to lift you up and support you. You don't need more insanity. You don't need more stress. And I feel like having an active addict come back in the home, that's all that it's going to lead to. I was just talking about this to somebody the other day. Again, Laura told me that I was still being controlling, I realize now that unfortunately when we love someone in addiction, an addict is not going to tell us the truth. Okay? And even if they do once in a while, that's not their behavior, meaning as that's not going to be a constant. The more constant is going to be the lying. So yeah, no problem.
Coming back, baby.
What I don't want to see is having addiction actively be back in your home, and you're not going to get that healthy support. You're not going to get that healthy love, that healthy communication. You're going to get the behaviors of the addict. And that's going to be very hard and difficult. So no, I don't think you're doing anything wrong if you don't want him to come back home. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. He can go back to inpatient. He can go to somebody else's houses. And I know this is hard to hear. He can go to a shelter because you're dealing with something right now that the last thing you need is stress. Because take it from me, as I realize, and it's fact that when we're going through stressful situations, that stress creates all the a lesser immunity response from our body. That's why we get more sick when we're stressed, okay? And what it also does is cause inflammation in your body, so your body can't do the thing that it needs to do. So I'm telling you right now, I don't think you're doing anything wrong.
No, I think honestly, in every moment of every situation, we have to do an inventory of who we want in our life, what they're giving to us, what we need, what we don't need. And I think, you know better than anybody what you need in your life.
And truthfully, if someone's using has gone back to use, them just coming back to an environment where they're going to feel like everything's okay isn't the best thing for them either, to be completely honest. They're going to go back into the environment thinking everything's okay, and that doesn't help someone go, I have a problem and I really got to do this. I think it actually does the opposite. I know someone else asked a question, guys, but it disappeared on my laptop. If anybody has a question right now, just copy and paste your question again, and then I can see it. Oh, here we go. Here's one. Shannon, hold on 1 second. When do you know if it's time to leave or keep trying? As soon as I start to get comfortable, he relapses, or I find out he's been using the whole time. I just don't know how long I can go on doing this. Go ahead, Mitchell.
I would say when that's the big question. When do you know? And I wish there was a better answer, but you know when you know. Like, when you start asking that question, you start reaching out, right? You start reaching out and getting more support. Organically, you start searching for answers, right? I'm asking the question, searching for answers, getting a support group, talking to people, maybe starting to help myself, starting to learn how to hold boundaries. The thing keeps happening. We ask that support the same things. We work through this stuff. We make exit strategies. We do this stuff. We ask, when do we know, right? And then we keep getting more clear on what we want and need, to where we ask ourselves one day, and it's today's the day, right? Today's the day, because something hasn't changed. Or it is, man, things have gotten so good that I don't ask myself that question anymore, right? And I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yep. That dog. So for me, what I think, how do we know when we're ready to leave, or it might be the healthiest decision for us? For me, it was really understanding that I could not control Mitchell's addiction. And what do I mean by that? It was realizing that Mitchell in active addiction, I was not going to make him tell me the truth. I was not going to stop him from lying. It was realizing that if I wanted healthy communication in a relationship, I was not going to get that from the addict. Having healthy love or healthy support, I was not going to get that from the addict. Wanting to have someone support me when I was going through anxiety or empathize with me, I was not going to get that from the addict. And I cannot control when Mitchell stopped using. So for me, it became, do I want to have a life where I don't know when the day is that Mitchell's going to stop using, or if he ever is. And what do I want for my life? And I didn't want to continue living a life with a partner that I felt not seen, not heard.
Safe with.
Yeah, not safe with. I wanted a healthy love. I wanted healthy support. I wanted communication. I wanted connection. And I was not getting that from my spouse. So that is when, and it definitely was having a good support system, and Laura saying those words to me of, Anna, Mitchell left you a long time ago, because I was so scared of leaving Mitchell. And Laura saying, Anna, Mitchell left you a long time ago. That kind of really hit me, and realizing that I was craving Mitchell again. I wanted Mitchell, and what she was telling me is Mitchell's not in front of you, and he hasn't been for a long time. The person he left in his place was the addict. And then she also added on and said, and Anna, we don't know if Mitchell's going to ever come back to any of us, meaning her, meaning Alpine. And then said, we don't even know if Mitchell's ever going to come back to himself. And so for me, that's when I knew, and I was ready to leave. It didn't mean that I didn't hurt and that it wasn't hard. It was definitely hard. I definitely still acted codependent at time. However, I just know that when I got that space from the addict, you know, I think I mourned and I was very scared of moving forward. But that first time I really hung out with friends and met new people and new friends, for me, that helped me realize that I was okay, that I would be okay. And I actually, to be honest, like saying the words divorce and really meaning it, like I really meant and really felt like we were getting divorced. I felt free. And, you know, that's really, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's really sad that you're in a marriage with someone, and when I say divorce, I feel free.
I think it's a great sign.
Yeah, of like knowing I'm ready to go, you know?
Yeah, I think it's, no, it's not a great sign in any marriage, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a great sign that you're ready to go, right? And like you often say, like, you know, I stayed so long because you didn't love yourself.
Yes.
Right?
True.
And I'm not saying you're staying to figure things out or to work on things because you don't love yourself, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying sometimes we start focusing on the other people and is this that bad? Can they change? We focus on that so much that we don't focus on, is this something that I want to live with? Is this something that I can come back from, right? Because it's about us, right? This life is about us, and it's about your other person for them, right? It's about them for themselves, right? But we come together and we raise family, we raise kids, we, you know, do all this stuff within the community and all this, have friends. But like, you have to do the stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You have to love yourself enough to do the things for you.
Yes.
And for other people.
Yes, and I think my thing is I couldn't keep saying that my life was a living hell when for it being a spouse, that I had control to leave. I needed to get out of that victim mentality for me, because then I was basically stating, you know, I have a life that's hell because of the addiction. But in actuality, if I can get that strength to leave and take my power back, then I don't have to live in that hell, and my life doesn't have to be that hell. And we need to remember, I know this is hard to hear, but if we're really in a relationship with a true narcissist or an addict that will display narcissistic behaviors but doesn't necessarily mean true individual is a narcissist and an addict is never going to walk up to us and go, you know what? I'm going to leave this relationship. Okay? And I think that's a hard truth to realize, that the addict or the narcissist is in the relationship with us. Because they're getting their needs met. Even if it's as unhealthy as crap, they're getting their needs met. So an addict's not going to walk up and go, I'm leaving. That doesn't really happen. Unfortunately, it does on the families. We're the ones that need to make the choice to leave the situation. And I do believe that we're a victim of addiction. However, I do believe, and I know this is hard to hear, and I could be wrong, this is just my feelings. I feel like when we suffer from codependency, that what does become is, yes, we're the victim for some time, but if we start learning about codependency and other things, and then we keep saying that the addict is the cause of our life feeling hell and all our stress, again, I just told you that the addict's never going to leave. So then we need to take our power back, because if not, then I believe we fall into victim mentality, and we believe that feeling that we are actually really stuck and there is no other way out. And so we need to take our power back. And that's how a victim turns into a survivor, is they take their power and their control back from the perpetrator and say, you know what? I'm no longer going to let you do this to me. And that is sometimes leaving. And for me, I think that's what Laura was trying to teach me, is that I was so mad that Mitchell kept lying to me. But she was trying to say is, you're in victim mentality. You know, he's lying to you, but
he's the addict. He's
can
lying
you
to
do
you for
something
sure.
different? Because Mitchell's not going to change, Anna. Mitchell's not going to be the one to change. You need to change. And that was very hard for me to honestly hear, because I didn't want that responsibility. I already felt like the bad person leaving someone hurting. But when Laura did say, like, Anna, he left you a long time ago, that really was very freeing for me, guys. It made me really realize that I was making a decision to leave someone that was hurting. And I think that's a truth that we don't want to accept sometimes as family members. We're very in denial of it. Or we see it, but we're unsure still what to do. Is if you love someone in addiction and they're in active addiction. Now, when I say this, the true individual, generally, majority of the time, is so kind, caring, empathetic, loving, and would want to support us, okay? The addict, unfortunately, the addict is very abusive, whether mentally, emotionally, verbally, even sometimes physically. And when we love someone in addiction and they're still in their addiction, no matter the boundaries we hold, it's very hard to not have the addiction bleed on us, which means the abuse. And so for me, it does become, sometimes we need to leave our abuser if they're not willing to challenge themselves, because the abuser is not going to leave us. And again, I'm saying that in the way of, this is not the true individual. This is someone in active addiction that's displaying all those unhealthy behaviors. And that's why I know some people don't like me saying that, but I do feel what it comes is, if we're being abused, then we do need to take procedures that sometimes is leaving a situation, because again, the abuser's not just going to stop abusing. We have to take our power back, and if that's walking away, it's walking away.
Yeah, I think you got to start by getting things in order. You got to have an exit strategy. You got to make sure you're safe. You got to see if there's kids involved or what it all looks like, right? You got to get that support, and you got to see what it looks like.
Yep. And Shannon wrote, I worry about what will happen to him if I make him leave. I understand that. I think a lot of us, when we get to that decision, we're very fearful. That's one of the reasons why I know I stayed way too long. I was very scared of, honestly, not even really Mitchell dying because of the drink or the drug. I was actually more scared of Mitchell committing suicide.
Well, and the thing is we can...
But it's not my responsibility to keep you alive.
My responsibility, and the thing is we can be fearful of what's going to happen to them if they go. But if they stay, they're not only killing themselves, but they're killing you too.
Yes.
Slowly. They're
yes.
draining you. They're taking you away from this life that we have.
Yes, exactly. And so, guys, I do want to just say this, though, when we're talking about anxiety and how we work through it, I honestly think you saw a little bit of how to work through it. It was me processing with not only Mitchell, but it was processing with you guys. So what it was I think when we have anxiety, we need to feel our feelings and emotions. And that's definitely what I did in the beginning, even if it was hard to do. And honestly, it almost felt like I didn't have control, like the tears just came out. However, the more I spoke about it and talked about it, and you guys helped process with me, when Mitchell asked questions, when you challenged me to talk again to Mitchell, that helped me work through the anxiety. So that's why it's so important to have a support system, a healthy support system, because it helps us ground and come back to center. So when we have anxiety, I really think processing is key, okay? That's expressing our feelings and emotions and knowing we need to feel them. I think other ways for me of how to work through anxiety for sure is making sure, and Patricia, you did help me challenge that feeling, is if I'm communicating with another person, sometimes we need to ask them what we really need. And what I needed was for Mitchell, instead of asking questions, just being an active listener. And that helped. Once he did that, I started calming down even more because I felt more heard with what was going on. For me, what other techniques that I use to work through my own anxiety, I'll pull out my iPhone sometimes and put the notepad up, and I'll just write to the universe. Other times I have logic and reasoning games like crosswords, or finding things that helps me decompress. Putting on a show that's nostalgia. Getting out of it, pausing it, not to never go back into it, but just to ground first. So then I have the more being able to process. That really helps me calm. Going for a walk, and I think why it's so hard is when I'm going through anxiety like this, one of my massive coping skills was sitting out and hugging Tonka. I don't have that anymore. So it's like kind of scrambling to find what other coping skill to use when the coping skill I used to have is now actually creating anxiety for me, you know? And so I think that's something, and I think to help, I feel like what I do to help you work through anxiety is what you did for me today, is to not try to fix things, guys. Be an active listener, and when someone says something, just reflect back what they said to you, because what that does is it helps them hear their own thoughts when they're in that sudden emotion. And if they want to express more, then they'll express more, because if they feel like they're not heard, they'll usually say but or and. So you just responding back by reflecting what you heard actually helps someone continue processing, rather than sometimes what doesn't help is asking those thinking questions, because then it stops us on that train of thought. It's almost like what Jared did. Remember, Jared sometimes, like, in groups would be like, no, like put his hand out, and he didn't even really like the box of tissue to go to somebody, because he wanted someone to keep processing instead of being stopped in the middle of having possibly a really good breakthrough.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Sorry. What are some ways, all right, what are some ways, Mitchell, that, because we did have someone ask, what are some ways that have helped you work through anxiety personally when you have anxiety?
No, all that stuff. You got to pause. You got to ground yourself. You got to look around. You got to tell yourself this isn't what's happening now.
Yep.
You know, this isn't fact. You know, I mean, you know, meditation, doing stuff when you're not anxious.
Yep.
To help. Meditating, realizing that your thoughts are not yourself. You know, like, you do all this prep work before you're anxious, because then when you're anxious, you pull this out. And it's like, I am not my anxiety, right? I am Mitchell. I'm anxious because of A, B, C, D. I don't know why A, B, C, D. I don't know if it's in that order or what, but I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Right? And then I can realize that, like, okay, I'm anxious, so I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't have to take me out today.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the key for me, because if you can separate that space, if you can get away from the anxiety for a second, you realize that it's usually over nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like it's just like trying to control somebody else. You can't control them. You can't control the anxiety. You can't will it away. You know what I mean? You can't do any of this stuff, and by trying to control it, you're jumping on it, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just recognizing it. You got to recognize it. You got to pause from it. You got to say, you know, what is valid here? You know, do I have a valid reason to be anxious? You know, what situation is this like? You know, most of mine's like, Mitchell, you felt that way whenever you were like 7. You don't have to feel that way anymore. And then I like get out of it. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't have to feel that way anymore.
Yep, and I think someone else has said it on here too, is we do need to remember feelings aren't facts, they're feelings. And so,
define you,
yep, working through those feelings. And I will tell you, when like I'm in panic attack mode, what helps is really remembering my breath work.
Breathing.
Is
for sure.
focusing on my breath, okay? And sometimes what can help, when I've had people going on panic attacks, the first thing I actually tell them to do is sit on the ground. And I will, if they're outside, I will tell them to put their hands into the earth, okay? And the reason is I want someone to ground. When we're sitting, it helps us ground more, and then helping someone breathe. I want you to breathe with me. And so we take deep breaths in and out, and that usually will set us back into grounding again, just to talk and be able to take the next steps. But I can't express enough how much breath work really helps. And I do want to answer this last question, though, before we sign off, is, are some addicts and alcoholics too far gone to want help or able to help themselves?
No.
I want to say no. And the reason is because we never hold that control, but the one in addiction does. I am a person that,
I don't think anybody in this world is too far gone from anything.
yeah, I believe if your heart is still beating, you still have opportunity. Just the hard part is, and the part that we need to realize, it's not up to us. It's up to the individual. Okay, and that's the hardest part for us to really understand.
And that's the thing. They could be too far gone for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point, Mitchell.
Like, are they too far gone? No one's too far gone. But there's people that are going to be like, this is enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And our story together is done.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that someone's not savable.
Yes.
Changeable.
Yes, I like the way that you said that. So, guys, what I'll do is we're going to end here tonight just because we do the hour. But I'll scroll through tonight to look if there was any questions that we did not answer because it was hard to actually see the questions tonight. But we love you guys very much. Thanks for being on. Thanks for helping me work through my anxiety. And I think that's key is that a lot of the times it's just being an active listener to somebody. It's not about fixing somebody's anxiety. It's about listening to somebody and what they're going through and validating their experience.
Honestly, they'll figure it out later.
Yes,
you will.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then when
you
they're
will.
calmer, we can start to challenge and ask those questions. But thank you guys very much for being here and helping me work through this. And thank you, Mitchell, too, also.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, I love you guys.
All right.
We're back in Mass, so I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 9.
All right. Bye, guys.